What's up, guys? So happy April Fool's Day, but I've got a guy here that is no stranger to me. I met him at church and come to find out he was a financial advisor. Um, also, he's been in the fitness space a little bit as a personal trainer, so we have a lot in common. We also both enjoy hunting for golf balls. Well, I do more hunting. He's probably is actually really good. But which reminds me, we need to play sometime, Zach. But this is Zach Heel. He's a financial advisor for Northwestern Mutual. Now, I wanted to have Zach on the talk because, guys, it's my understanding that statistically, 72% of Americans have experienced financial stress once per month. Now, you guys know how I'm all about obviously like growing your faith along with our fitness goals in our fitness journey. And I want us to, we want to thrive as Christians, not just barely make it. But one thing I thought that would be a cool resource to add to the app, just to have there if anybody wants it, is you know, when stress is affecting our body, it impacts our sleep negatively, it impacts our food choices. And I've got Zach here to talk about this resource and this idea of working with a financial advisor and how affordable it can be. And he certainly helped me a lot. Of course, when I resigned from teaching to do this, there's no retirement in online coaching, There's no, so he's helped me a great deal. And I want to just get right into it and talk to Mr. Zach Hill of Northwestern Mutual right here in Johnson City a little bit about what he does and in financial planning. So Zach, how are you doing today, man?
Doing well, doing well. Happy to be here. Happy to be joining you today, and happy to for the friendship and the relationship that we've developed organically through attending our church. Obviously, just to kind of give you all a bit of insight as to who I am and how I got to be here. I have a bachelor's degree in exercise science kinesiology. I have an associate's as well. I'm actually a certified personal trainer. I don't know if Doug knew that or not. I know he knew I had some background there, but I did that while I was going to school for a big gym over in Morristown, and it was good. I really, really enjoyed it, and I love fitness and nutrition, and that's really something that I'm very passionate about. But I think God had a different calling for my life, just because I was the child that grew up in a home where, my dad's a minister for a smaller church, and so there wasn't a big salary that he was paid, and my mom's a nurse, so very middle class family. There was lots of arguments that I experienced and heard as a child, and I think a lot of that could have been prevented. I think financial planning is for everyone. I think ultimately, whether you make 15,000 a year or 1.5 million a year, what it comes down to is just getting clear, having some awareness around how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, and living below your means. I mean, a lot of it's more behavior and just having discipline, which, as you know, if you're, if you're listening to this, with Doug, you have to have discipline with your diet because no matter how hard you work, if you're putting bad things in your body, your results are not going to be the same as if you're doing both, right? And so I think discipline creates freedom in all aspects of life, not just with fitness and nutrition. I think it comes, it's going to be in your finances as well, and so that's kind of why I'm joining Doug today. So.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I know you're busy, but I really thought this would be valuable for everybody here on the in the app and the club. Let's start with this. What are the basics you think everyone should know about financial planning?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately a lot of people, there's so many things on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. Like we're always seeing all these things pop up, and it's like, what's the best way, or what's the right stock to pick, or should we do this? Should we do that? And I think ultimately, just keeping it simple is what I've found to be most successful for most people. So a lot of what I'm teaching is more or less just starting with first and foremost, look at, for an example, where it's April 1st, right? So if you look at March's bank statement at wherever bank you bank at and print that off and grab a highlighter. I think that's going to give you a lot of awareness on what do I value? Where's my money going? Because if you look at your bank statement and you look at your calendar, you're going to see what you really value most, right? And so I think that if you are putting your head in the sand and you don't actually take the advice that I provide, I can't really do much to help, right? I mean, it's kind of like you, Doug, obviously with you try to design a plan that's going to help someone achieve their goal. But if they don't execute and they don't, they're not very coachable, it's really hard to, you can't want it more for them than they want it for themselves, right? And so
Right. Right.
I think the first step is printing off a bank statement and getting really, aware of where money's going, how much you spend on eating out, how much you spend on shopping. And it's not to indicate, we're trying to create some restrictions. It's more or less to create freedom. Because once you have awareness, then you can decide how much do I want to allocate towards eating out? How much do I want to allocate towards golf? And then once you have that design plan, then you can understand, okay, I've got this much coming in, this much going out. I believe personally you should give to God first, 10% of what you earn. And then I believe after that, pay yourself. So the way that I think about that is, designing a system where every time that I'm paid biweekly, I'm going to tithe and then I'm going to draft an automated payment that's going to go into some out of sight, out of mind places, some for more short-term things, some for retirement, some for all those years in between, maybe for kids' education. So, but I think if you pick a number and you set it up on an automated systems with someone like myself who could kind of educate on how that works, you look up and you review every 6 to 12 months and it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot I had this money. But then they're really encouraged by knowing there's a sense of security that's being created behind the scenes. So I think foundationally, it's budgeting and getting clear on where money's going, understanding what's coming in, what's going out, and then trying to capture a percentage of what you have left over, that discretionary money, and then setting it up on automation to where there's no emotional attachment to what, your decision making for a 30-year time horizon.
Yeah. Uh, you said so much there, and I was just like, yep, same way with tracking macros. Yep, same way with fitness, same way with nutrition. It's just
Don't they work
there's so
together?
many
I mean,
parallels there, man.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and that makes me think about, your time in the gym as a personal trainer.
yeah,
And you touched on this, but is there anything else you want to say? Because that was really interesting to me
yeah.
about what made you want to leave personal training, given your upbringing, and helping people stay disciplined with fitness, and just saying, no, I want to help people, not just stay disciplined, but like you said, like feel freedom with their
Hmm.
finances.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately what it comes down to is that, God found a way to just put me where he wanted me to be at. Because I would have never thought, if you asked me the sophomore high school version of me, like, are you going to be doing something with numbers? I would have said absolutely not, because I did not like math. I did not like numbers. But what I have always loved is people. And I feel like God's given me some unique gifts to be able to connect to people and build, really good relationships with people. And I think how they kind of work together, or how they somewhat intertwine, is what I think I've always desired is just, I think I desire to have help someone achieve the best version of themselves. And whether that's in fitness, finances, spiritually, like obviously I'm not perfect, I'm growing every day, but I want to help someone get to the next level, whatever that next level is for them. And I think growing up, being that kid that grew up listening to a lot of arguments, the psychology behind how I think about money is more of a scarcity mindset than abundance. And that's something I've had to really work on. I think I want to not be poor more than I want to be wealthy, if that makes sense.
No,
And
that makes sense. Yeah.
I think that's pretty normal for probably at least 50, 60, 70% of the population. Um, and I think that if you can set up a system to where you don't have to think a lot about it, similar to a 401k, for an example, most of the people, when we meet with someone at 65, most of their wealth is tied to their mortgage or their home, and it's tied to their 401k. And the reason that is because you can't skip either of those. The 401k is on auto draft. The mortgage, you can't call and say, "Hey, I think I want to skip it this month." So if it's on an automated system with, no, like, no non you can't negotiate with the number that's drafting. I think that that's where discipline is, that discipline creates the freedom of being able to look up at 65 and say, okay, well, I've got something to show for my life's work. And so, um, all that being said, I guess, personal training and how I got here, I think it's just a combination of, trauma, we'll call it, with my childhood growing up, and then the desire whenever I was personal training to just help someone achieve a goal faster than they would have without me, and having the ability to influence people and be an accountability partner and care enough about them to give them a call and make sure that, even though they don't want to talk about money, this period, it's my job to care more about their finances than maybe them, than their job is. Because at the end of the day, I want to look up, when I'm in my 60s and realize, like, man, I had a lot of impact. It's not so much about money, it's more about how did my life impact the people that I was in contact with. So,
Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that. That's the goal.
yeah.
Impact people in whatever it is we're doing. And again, man, I'm just thinking about um, so many things you just said, but like if it's coming out automatically,
Hmm.
like you don't have a chance to negotiate it.
Right.
And in fitness, there's so many things like what do we say about workouts? Like you have to view your workout as an appointment, a non-negotiable appointment. Because if you leave it up to whatever you feel like doing today, you're going to start missing. Same thing
Hmm.
with food. Like when you meal prep, that's as close to an auto draft as you
Right.
can get. Because
Right.
that meal is setting for you, and you know you spent the money at the grocery store for it, and it's A, going to be wasteful to not eat that meal
Hmm.
that maybe you have $3, $4 in sitting in the refrigerator. But secondly, it's gonna, it's going to be cost you even more to go to Chick-fil-A and get a $12 combo instead of that meal. So, what do you think are some valuable lessons you've learned in just some conversations you've had with people in
Hmm.
this journey as a financial advisor, and anything you want to say that you've noticed personally, maybe in the parallels between fitness and financial advising?
Um, I mean, I think realistically, the beauty of what I get to do is I get to talk to people that are 25, that are just at the beginning, they're at the starting line, and they're trying to figure out ways to save money and invest and grow money and grow wealth. But I also get to meet with people that are 65, that have had the 30, 40-year working career, and they've got, the 401k that they're trying to make sure they protect at all costs and, preserve. And so I'm able to ask those people like some questions and take their hindsight and make that the foresight of the people that I'm talking to that are in their 20s and 30s. The conflict or the problem that I think I have is conveying that message to these people and them actually taking action. Because the issue is, you look at it would apply the same way in a personal training, model. If you talk to the 65, 70-year-old, they're probably going to tell you, I wish I'd have done, a little bit more strength training or maybe a little bit more yoga. Like flexibility is a problem now, or I wish you could fill in the blank with whatever, however you would respond to that for the 65-year-old. But ultimately, what I hear from the 65-year-old is, I wish I would have started this when I was 25, right? But at 25, you think you have forever. You think you have all the time in the world. But the reality of it is the way compound interest works is, every decade that you postpone delaying to try to save money, and it doesn't have to be delegated just to retirement. There's accounts that I help with that, you can access in a couple of days if you needed it. It's really more or less overflow from your emergency fund savings in your bank. And I think there's a misconception around that. Like whenever I tell people save it or invest, it's not saving to age 60. It's more or less just trying to understand your life's goals and financially, what are you trying to accomplish? But needless to say, the way compound interest works is every decade that you delay, you have to save at least twice as much to hit the same number. So from 25 to 35, if you delay, you might have to save 400 a month at 25 to reach a million, for an example. But at 35, it's probably going to be more like 8 to 900 to reach a million. You delayed another 10 years, you're probably looking at 2,500. You delayed another 10 years, you're probably looking at 5,700. So compound interest cannot do its magic if you don't get started early in life. And I think if you don't have enough discipline to save money when you're making less income, you'll never find the discipline to save money when you're making more income. It's all about the concepts and, foundational pieces of just locking in on this, what I try to teach people, which is, I don't care if what income you're making. Like if you have 200 bucks left over, that is great, awesome. Like, and that's also something I want to convey too, is you don't have to be, making $500,000 for a financial planner, a financial advisor to be valuable. Obviously, like if you have more income, there's the numbers are going to be bigger. But realistically, I'm more about just trying to help someone see definitively, even if you're making a lower income, it's really more or less the concept, right? So the concept of you make 3 grand or whatever the number is, you spend two, you've got $1,000 left over. How much of that do you want to spend on enjoying life, on golf and all the things, and how much of it do you want to dedicate towards savings? And a good I mean rule of thumb is 20% of your income. If you can save 20% of your household income per month, and it goes into the right places, typically that's going to be sufficient to allow you to have everything you want. But it all is contingent upon obviously what the person is looking for and looking to accomplish. But um, a good example of someone that I meet with might be a newly married couple. They come in and they're, just getting started and they don't really know where to begin. So, I mean, first things first, we start with the budget. I'll have that first conversation identifying like, hey, what's a win for you guys this year? If I'm a fly on the wall, listening to you all talk about money for 2025, what would I hear if I was just, listening? They may say, well, we got some credit card debt we got to get paid down. We know we need to start a 529 college education account for our son. We probably need to look at saving a little bit more for retirement, and we would like to go on at least one big vacation a year. Well, that's a lot to unpack, but for me, that tells me everything I need to know. Because if I can take those four goals, then that tells me exactly where money needs to go, into these different locations based off the different time frames that they're actually planning on grabbing that money, if that makes sense. And then all I do is take that number, and if that number is, let's say they're going to give me, I don't know, $500 a month or $1,000 a month, I might put 300 into this account, 200 into this account, 200 into this account, and then another 300 into this account. But all that they would see visually on their side is 500 drafting every 2 weeks on autopilot, and then I disperse all these funds into the right locations based off of what they've told me is important to them. So, and then from there, it's more or less just I'm talking about authenticity and effective communication. Be transparent with me. Let me know, like if you see your emergency fund savings get too low and you're feeling anxiety, I need to know that because if I don't know that, I can't do anything to help. But if someone communicates that to me, I can pause their investment drafts for a month or two, let them pick that savings back up to get back to that 3 to 6 month emergency fund, and then we'll get to redrafting on the investments that we had originally been drafting in the first place. So a lot of it's just effective communication, being transparent, keeping me on speed dial. And I want to be on this journey with that person, but I can't hold them accountable if they don't communicate with me.
They're basically online fitness coaching.
You got it.
Effective communication. If I don't know something, I don't know what I don't know, you know?
You got it. You got it.
Yeah. That's really cool, man. That's really cool. And guys, I just want to say, I wanted to have Zach on here, like I said, because of his background. He's one of us. He was a personal trainer himself. I've seen you, you've done a couple of races here lately. He's killing it with his own fitness goals. I believe how we do one thing is how we should do everything. And I just wanted to, just because, like I said, 72% of Americans are affected by financial stress. And I'm like, hmm, stress. I hear a lot about stress and we talk about doing things for ourselves. But here's something you can do if you feel compelled, is reach out to Zach and Zach, tell everybody how they could contact you.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I would say just reaching out to my office or my cell phone number. My office is going to be 423-248-9513, and then my cell phone number is going to be 423-237-1841. The cell phone number is probably going to be better if you just want to shoot me a text and just literally just say, introduce yourself, give me your name, let me know how we got connected through, obviously, Doug. The way that it would work is, I've got about 450 households that I'm responsible for in 32 states. So I am very, very busy, but I do, have the capacity to still onboard new people and help people. So, in the event that someone would reach out to me, they could text me just their name and introduction, or they could email me also at my email, which is just ZACHARY period S period Hill, HILL at nm Nancy Mother, so nm.com. That's also an option. But in the event they wanted to chat with me, basically, we would schedule an initial conversation. So I'm sure it's probably similar to how you would run your business, Doug, where more or less, I'm meeting with them for the first time. They're kind of filling me out. I'm filling them out. It's kind of like a first date, right? We're trying to figure out if we want to have another conversation with this person or not. Because even if he's educated and he's knowledgeable potentially, do I feel like I could spend time with him for the next 30 years? Because this is really a 30-year relationship if, I'm working with a client if they're in their younger years, of course. And so we would schedule that first meeting. I would then schedule a second meeting if they have a good experience in the first one. I would provide them with a financial plan. So more or less like a personal training like plan, right, to allow them to achieve their goals. And that financial plan is typically going to give them a forecast of if you don't change anything about how you're going about managing money right now, where money's going, how you're saving it, just if nothing changed, how does that play out over the next 30 years? Are you happy with the outcome? Are you not happy with the outcome? If we're able to x-ray it and find some broken bones, so to speak, or some ways where maybe we can be a little bit more efficient with taxes or how we could grow money better, then obviously we would schedule a third meeting, in which case we may or may not choose to take action. One of three things will typically happen. Either people will agree it makes sense and we'll move forward on some capacity. They'll say, Zach, this is awesome, but it's just not quite the right time for us just yet. Or the third would be obviously, thanks for your time, Zach. Thanks for the financial plan, but it's just not a good fit for me. So just wanted to explain how that works and also explain that, it's more or less this complimentary second opinion from a compensation standpoint. I don't charge a fee or anything to spend time with people. I don't have billable hours like a CPA or an attorney. I more or less am having those conversations and obviously in hopes of mutually agreeing to partner with someone, in which case I would be compensated via whatever companies I'm utilizing to help them with whatever solutions I'm helping them with. So
Perfect. And I've, of course, got your contact information. I'll put it in the link on the resource so everybody can easily email you or I'll put both numbers on there. But like you said, cell phone would probably be best at this time. So
sure.
Zach,
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate your time and how you answered the questions. And I think a lot of people are going to have more clarity about, financial advisor. Like you said, it's not for just someone making a 500,000 a year or someone that owns a business. There's
Mhm.
truly benefits, whether it's college savings for your kids, all kinds of different reasons that it can benefit you and relieve some stress, man. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah. No, it's a pleasure. And the last thing I'll leave people with is just there's three foundational, like I guess, principles of financial planning. One's going to be risk management, so protecting what can go wrong. And then once we've protected what can go wrong, we then acquire the luxury to then save and invest for what can go right. So that's going to be wealth accumulation. And then the third is going to be wealth preservation and distribution. So those are the three phases, and I go through all those with each person, educating them on what does this mean? How does this work? Why does this matter? So if someone just wants to chat with me about, just being more educated, and maybe it doesn't make sense for us to work together, I'm more than happy to spend that time. So,
Really awesome, man. All right,
yeah.
man. Good talking to you. Good seeing you again. And
Yep.
guys, let me know what you took away from this resource. Zach really gave us a lot of good information, and we will talk later.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.